And topic 1 is the role and function of the judiciary. Okay, the role and function of the judiciary. I want somebody with the Nigerian Constitution to read section 6 for us. Anybody? Section 6 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Anybody with Nigerian Constitution? Okay, read for us.
The judicial power of the Federation shall be vested in the laws established by the Constitution of the Federation.
Can you repeat that again? And let's say it in a way that we can hear you. We can all hear you. Yes.
The judicial powers of the Federation shall be vested in the courts established by the Constitution of the Federation.
All right. Okay. And you all know the importance of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, right? As we can popularly say that it's the number one law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And it's such a powerful law because it states or provides for structure of government. As it relates to this topic, apart from providing for the structure of government, it also makes provision for practically every aspect of our lives. But our focus this morning is on judicial powers. And the person who read to us made it known from the section of the Constitution that the judicial power of the Federation is vested in the judiciary. So we will look at these functions, and of course other section or subsection of that section also talks about some other things as it relates to the powers that is vested in the judiciary. But first of all, let's look at the definition of judiciary. The Bovia Dictionary defines judiciary as the system of courts of justice in a country. It's simple as that. The judiciary is a system of courts of justice in a country. And it went further to say that the department of government concerned with administration of justice. I think that definition, sums it all and, provides or gives us a clear idea of what the judiciary is. That judiciary is a system of courts in a country. The department of government concerned with administration of justice. Then you may begin to ask, what is justice? What is department? What is government? And all of that. But I believe that with your knowledge, the little knowledge you got in before you came to the university, you have a pretty good idea of what those terms stand for. But in a simple term, the judiciary is usually described as the arm of government that is responsible for the interpretation of the law. The judiciary is described as that arm of government. If you look at the definition provided by Bovia Dictionary, it says a department. But simply put, we are saying that the judiciary is an arm of government that deals with interpreting the law. So even without anybody preaching so much on the functions of the judiciary, from what I've just said, one of the major functions of the judiciary is what? Interpreting the law. So from what I've said, it may not be exactly certain what this means, or I mean the definition, since law are expected to be in clear terms. When we're talking about, the judiciary interprets the law and all of that, you may probably feel that what is there to be interpreted, especially when the laws are written in a language that you can understand. If the wordings were in Igala, for example, if I'm not an Igala man, then I will require the services of someone who understands the language to translate. But that is translation, which is different from interpretation. Okay? So, when we're talking about the fact that it is the arm of government that deals with interpretation of law, it may appear to be that is that really supposed to be a good definition, since the law in itself is supposed to be clear, with plain language, and that anyone should be able to understand what the law is saying. But the truth of the matter is that no matter how clearly written the laws are, there are aspects of the laws that will always require interpretation. As a matter of fact, when there are issues between two individuals, and then there is need to make a case, people engage the law differently. Apart from engaging the law differently, they provide personal interpretation to the laws. And when they provide different interpretation to the law, one of the things you observe is that they either give definition that suits their needs. Am I speaking, please?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's take it that two people had an issue, and you decided to call one person to tell you the story or to tell you what transpired between them. The one who has come to you first will not put the story in a way that will make him feel as if he's a bad person, isn't it? He's likely to, when he gets to those aspects where the story does not favor him or her, he will skip, right? And say the ones that, well, once you finish hearing, it will look as if you take a gun and shoot at the other fellow. And that is how, and of course, let's say you now invite the second person to come and tell you what the issues are. Sometimes you'll be confused. And say, but what this person told me is completely different from what you are saying. Why is it so? It is so because every individual will prefer to win an argument, especially when there are interests at stake. And that is why the judiciary stands in a good position to provide adequate, fair interpretation to any law that is advanced even to the society. So, because of all of this, like I said, that is why the judiciary is tasked with this important function of interpreting or ensuring that the law is put out or is explained in the way that will meet the intention of the lawmakers. You know, when laws are being made, the legislatures will always have their intention, you know, the reason behind the law. I'll give you an example. There was a time in our history, very recently anyway, when kidnapping became very rampant, right? To the extent that those of us that don't even have money, we are afraid of being kidnapped. Because what is the purpose of, even when they kidnap an individual, there is no money to pay. It's better they just keep the person rather than. So those of us, we that were students, we are even afraid of being kidnapped. But at that time, every day we hear stories of what? Kidnapping here and there. And then the lawmaking body went into action and said, what can we do to curb this incessant kidnapping or the recurring news that is so prevalent in the society? And they thought about increasing the punishment that is attached to kidnapping as an offense. That if the punishment is made to be which word do I use now? If it's one that will bring more pain to those who are engaged in it, then they will desist from doing it. Meaning that it will create some form of deterrence, what we call deterrence. At least things that does not allow you to do some things. When I teach like this, I usually say that the reason why some of us have decided not to engage in crimes is because you are afraid that if you are caught, you'll be what? You'll be prosecuted. Or you are afraid that if you are caught, they will show your face where? On the television, apart from television, crime fighter will show your face. So, if you look at it, as flimsy as that may be, or as unpopular as that reason may be, you discover that people abstain from crime so that they are not caught. So, the reason behind the legislature, the mind of the lawmaker, was that if we increase the punishment, anybody that wants to go in will think twice. But the truth of the matter is that whether the punishment is increased or not, those that still wants to do it will still do what? They will still do it. But the truth of the matter is that it will also prevent many from engaging in it. So at every point in time, before a law is made, there is always a reason for it. Are you following me, class?
Yes, sir.
So the reason for the creation of the law is what we call the intention of the lawmaker. So in interpreting the law, what is usually the focus, or what must be the focus, is what the law seeks to achieve. And that's why when the judiciary is performing that function, they try to dig into the reason behind the law. And then they provide definition that will suit the intention of the lawmaker. So all of this that we have been saying highlight certain essential attributes that go to make up a judiciary. Okay? From all that we have been saying, yes, the judiciary, even though it's a body, it has components or actors that act in it, to ensure that the functions are performed. And this essential attributes that makes up the judiciary includes one, the judges. The what? The judges, the courts of law. Of course, that is where the judges sit to administer their duties. Then we also have the administration of justice. Administration of what? Okay? So, these three that we have mentioned forms the attributes that goes or that makes up the judiciary. Now, to further take it deeper, what also is the legal definition of the judiciary? The legal definition of the judiciary, I refer to the Black's Law Dictionary, 9th edition. The Black's Law Dictionary, 9th edition. If you don't like that name, Black's Law, when you have the opportunity, you can also create your own law and call it White Law Dictionary. Okay? But for now, the name of that dictionary is Black's Law Dictionary, 9th edition. That dictionary defines judiciary as follows. 1. The branch of government responsible for interpreting the laws and administering justice. The Black's Law Dictionary, 9th edition, defines the judiciary as a branch of government responsible for interpreting the laws and administering justice. It went further to say a system of courts, a body of judges. A system of courts and a body of judges. So, therefore, as we have mentioned earlier, we maintain the same position that the judiciary is the arm of government which in a democratic setting is vested with the power to interpret the law. Are you following me now? Okay. So, therefore, the judiciary has the power to construe and apply the law. In applying the law, it is in the interpretation of the law that is achieved. So, the real meaning of the law is what the judges decide during the course of giving their judgment in the various cases where they are cited. You know, it's very possible that you are quoting a law that does not apply to what you are doing. Right? You know it's possible. Okay. Now, let me give you an example, even though it's a funny one. They asked a class to write 10 Latin maxims. Latin maxims are sayings in law in Latin. And then the man has written first one, which is remember that God don't harvest. Have you heard of that before? That you cannot give what you don't have. Can you give what you don't have? Number 2, ex dolo mano no oricho acho. I'm not speaking in tongues. It simply means that the court of law cannot be used to enforce illegality. So when he got to the 9th one, he did not know what to write again. He wrote what? Requese. Because when you look at requese, es dolo manono, richo, recipsa loquitur, prima facie, you look at all those names, they look alike, abi? The guy just wrote something there. He said at all. And he left. But if the lecturer does not look at it properly, the lecturer will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and he will give him the full marks. But the judiciary will not do that in interpretation. The judiciary will take time to do what? To look at every law that is cited in order to ensure that the right interpretation is provided. So, functionally, the judiciary is a mechanism for resolution of disputes. It's a mechanism for what? Resolution of disputes and balancing of conflicts of interest. Because in every society, definitely and correctly so, there will be time when there will be dispute here and there. The judiciary performs that function to balance, interest and also what is the issue? Balancing of interest. Or conflict of interest. You cannot, all you just need when you are taking down notes is to understand what the lecturer is saying. Nobody will expect you in the course of exam to regurgitate or to give you word for word, but do you have an understanding of what we are talking about? The only thing is that if you don't, another reason why you react like that sometimes is when you don't know the spelling, you will now be grumbling as if you did not hear, whereas you are using style to ask for the spelling. We know you guys now. All right, so let's move on. That's just by the wayside. And from the citizen point of view, the judiciary is the most important organ of the government because it helps to protect the interests of the citizens against possible excesses of the other arm of government. So I am saying, I repeat again, that to the citizens, the ordinary people in the society, probably like you and I, the judiciary is the most important organ of government because it acts as a protector against the possible excesses of the legislative and executive organs. We have three organs of government: the judiciary, the executive, and what? If the two others decide to abuse their powers, the judiciary can call them to order. But as you will see later, you will notice that the executive already have a way of dealing with citizens. Same thing with the legislature or the legislative arm. But as it stands today, from my own perspective, even the judiciary that is supposed to help the common man also needs help. We will see that as we continue in this our discussion. But generally speaking, we believe that the judiciary helps towards to protect the interest of government. Now, how does judiciary achieve that purpose? Sometimes you hear of budget padding, right? Have you heard of that before? You've not heard of budget padding? What? Are you sure? Who has heard of that term, that word before? Anybody? Budget padding. You've not? That means you don't listen to news or you don't follow what is happening in the country. You only read your Facebook and watch who are these popular people? What? You watch Pella, you listen to Davido and all of that. Now, there's this popular word that has come to stay in our system in Nigeria, which is now known as budget padding. Let's say, for example, a particular ministry has presented their budget to the National Assembly. What? They have put 100 million there. The next thing you will see suddenly is that 100 million is now 300 million. How come? Abi, who has that question? I feel like giving you money. I feel like giving you money, but you were not fast enough. How come? That outcome is what we call the budget padding. Some of you do it. when they ask you to do something, you have gone to do something, they said the thing will cost 100 naira, and when you come and say, mommy, in fact I suffer today, before I eventually, everybody was all calling 300, 400, but eventually I saw one for 200, and your mommy will say, that's my son, that's my boy lórí irọ́, abi? And then your mother will give you 100, 200 naira, you will go and buy 100. What have you done? You have padded the cost. So when situations like this occur in a society, who suffers? It is you and I, because it is our money that is being padded and unpadded. Then some civil organization will go to court and say, there is a case of suspected budget padding, that the court should invalidate the procedure and start again. And of course, even when you pretend as if all is well, you see that the things that are happening in our society show otherwise. You see many of our roads, they are in a state of incompletion, and you will hear the governor will say, when I came to power, when I reviewed my predecessor's handover notes, I noticed that this particular contract has been awarded 3 times. I can assure you, before he will also leave office, he will also award it about 3 times. The road no dey finish. You know they finish. Maybe you can help me ask those of your uncles that are involved in all these things. But usually, the judiciary has a way of, checking these cases, especially when citizens decide to take the bull by the horn by challenging the various actions. So, let's move on then. And one thing we need to know is that if we are saying that the judiciary interpret the law, then what is the function of law in the society? Why do we really need to have laws? Now, just to buttress what that we are saying, law regulates social relations between members of a particular society. Okay? Law regulates what? Social relations between members of a particular society. So it goes without saying that the judiciary, in interpreting and applying the law, addresses and seeks to resolve areas of conflict of interest. Like I said earlier, it helps to what? To manage the various areas of conflict between members of the society, which can either be citizens and government, or between government and what? And citizens, or even between citizens and what? And citizens. So, therefore, the function of the judiciary, though seemingly narrow on the face of it, is relatively wide. So, when you hear interpretation of the law, it goes beyond that, strictly speaking. And of course, because it includes all other aspects of the life that we have in the society. So therefore, as we conclude on this part, the role of the judiciary in Nigeria cannot be overemphasized. Okay? And like we have mentioned, Section 6 of the Constitution specifically vests that power in that role or that power in the courts of law. Then, the question then therefore will be, what is judicial power? We've talked about the roles, right? What then is judicial power? Again, I'll refer you to I wanted to say the book of, but I will refer you to the Black's Law Dictionary 9th edition. Because if I say the book of Genesis, you go there and you will not see what I want to say there. The Black's Law Dictionary 9th edition defines judicial power as the authority vested in courts and judges to hear and decide cases and to make binding judgments on them. I'll repeat that again for the benefit of those who are writing. Okay? The authority vested in the court and judges to hear and decide cases and to make binding judgments on them. Continue. The power to construe. The power to construe and apply the law. The power to construe and apply the law when controversies arise over what has been done or not done under it. I'll repeat that again and for the last time. Judicial power is the authority vested in courts and judges to hear and determine cases and to make binding judgment on them. The power to construe and apply the law when controversies arise over what has been done or not done underneath it. So all of these is what we mean by the powers of the judiciary. So now we move on. We want to look at the roles now in specific terms. And in this class, if time will permit us, I will discuss about 4 of them very quickly. Of course, as we run through these 4, you will realize that we have touched on all of them in the course of that general introduction. Rule number 1. The judiciary is constituted as the ultimate interpreter of the Constitution. The judiciary is constituted as the ultimate interpreter of their Constitution. That means the judiciary has the role to determine what extent the scope of a particular, law, or let's put it on the different arms of government. That is, the judiciary has the power to determine what is the scope of the power of the legislative arm, the same thing as the scope of the powers or the duties of the executive arm of government. So simply put, if the judiciary performs that function to ensure that the executive does not exceed its power, the legislative arm does not exceed its power, then we can say therefore for short that the judiciary is a guardian of the Constitution, let's just put it that way, that the judiciary is a guardian of the Constitution. And of course, you can also add that the Constitution protects the democratic process. What did I say? It protects the democratic process. Recently, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu declared state of emergency in where? In Rivers State. It's like all the people on this side are the ones for Rivers State. Because these people did not even say anything. It's like they don't know. Abi? What do we mean by state of emergency? Can anybody say it? A state where you run away, Abi? Yes. You are not allowed to go out. Allowed to go. Yes. When you take over, yes. When the state is secure, yes. They are temporarily suspended. Okay, now the idea you have appears to relate to military intervention. It is when there is military intervention that the constitution is suspended, that democratic processes or whatever are suspended. But when you talk about the declaration of state of emergency in a democratic process, it can mean two things. Number one, that this aspect of our life requires urgent attention, serious focus, serious commitment to solve the issue. You hear that government should declare state of emergency on security, meaning that we are not living up to expectation. That government should commit more resources, government should commit more time, government should commit more political will in ensuring that there is security in Nigeria. Then, as it relates to a state like Rivers State, you will, if you were following the stories, you realize that there were a lot of political issues in Rivers State. They were fighting each other, destroying public places. The State House of Assembly was pulled down. Yeah, there were a lot of arrests there and here, pipeline vandalization, everything, which was going to lead to a state of anarchy, where there is no civility. And then the government or the president had to invoke his power to suspend the government. Because he feels that if the government is in place, this level of destruction, this level of anarchy, and all the things that were going on that should not happen in the democratic process should not happen. So he suspended the normal governing process so that normalcy can do what? Can prevail. Now, when the president took that step, some people feel that because there was no war in Rivers State, that the government ought not to have declared state of emergency. I think some people even went to court. I think they are still in court right now. That the act of the president is not in order. That consequently, the president should retrace his step and call off that state of emergency. They went to court. But on a normal day, people will say the president has spoken, so be it. If we were to be in a military era, many people would have will not have spoken. But because we are in a democratic setting, we believe that we have freedom of what? Of speech. You say your own, provided that whatever you speech you be does not cause trouble or further, cause more issues within the society. So people challenge the president, but the truth of the matter is that the court will always decide. We can wake up tomorrow and the court will say, because the government of Rivers State was not as bad as described by the president, that the emergency rule in Rivers State is hereby cancelled. and then that normalcy should return, the governor should continue to perform his function, House of Assembly should continue, everything should continue as usual. It's possible that that will happen. It can only happen if the judiciary feels that that is in the interest of what? Of the states, of the people. Unfortunately, the people that are fighting over there and causing all this, they are very few compared to the majority of ordinary people who are suffering. So, what we are saying is that the judiciary helps to guarantee or secure the democratic process. So, Nigerian courts have heard that the judiciary is a guardian of the constitution. Therefore, that role of the judiciary is very paramount and will always be discussed. Number two is that the judiciary ensures that every exercise of power by other arms or organs of government is in accordance and in compliance with the requirements of the rule of law. Your law. I'll repeat again. This is rule number 2. The judiciary ensures that every exercise of power by other organs of government is in accordance and in compliance with the rule of law. Okay? So, the judiciary at every point in time will always ensure that everything that is done outside the rule of law or the normal due process, that action should not stand. And that's what we are talking about, the issue of state of emergency in Rivers State. If the judiciary feels that the president did not follow the due process in doing what he has done, they may reverse the directive. But the judiciary will look at it on both sides. Why did the president have to declare state of emergency? For what reason? For whose benefits? Yes, if we look at it facially, we may say that, yes, the president and Governor Wike had something in common, right?